Hello, my name is Sean Patrick. I'm a licensed clinician. I've been working as a clinician for about 13 years now. I'm also an outdoor guide and a fishing captain. Um, I've been pretty silent on social media and kind of like turned inward and doing a lot of reflection. Um, because of honestly the current state of our country currently. Um, you know, over the last several weeks, we've watched several people die on public forums, and what I've witnessed is a lot of division between people. You know, and as a clinician, I've done a lot of couples therapy work, right? And what I've noticed with the couples that I've worked with is that when people don't feel heard or understood, it's easy for them to turn away from the other person, right? It's easy for them not to want to meet the needs of the other person if they don't feel like their needs are getting met. Um, and what I've seen with social media has been like, something bad happened to my person and you're not, responding in the way that I feel like you should respond. And then it's, well, you didn't respond this way to me, and so that's the reason why it's justified and all these things. Um, I think the thing that's really bothering me so much is like it's a lack of humanity for people, right? Like the communication that I hear is this divisive, left and right and black and white and male and female and all these things. And I've worked hard over the years to not or try not to see such things, and see people as people. And as somebody that used to be very much fueled by hatred and anger and just vileness, that I wanted to inflict it in the world around me, that's worked hard to like change my mindset and be more empathetic, be more understanding, be more caring. Like it's hurt my heart like a lot to watch this type of behavior. It's not what I want for my daughter. It's not what I want for other people because I know what's underneath that is pain. It's hurting. It's feeling like you're not being heard or understood, and the lack of empathy that we have for each other, I think is created this divisiveness because of the way that we speak, the way that we talk to each other, the way that you dehumanize somebody by the way you characterize them, and that's what allows people to get away with such horrendous things is that you don't see them as a human being. You don't see them as a person. And that allows them to be able to be victimized. You know, my whole purpose of being a clinician is to help improve other people's quality of lives. That's been my goal since the beginning. And I try to lead by example, and I'm in no way perfect, right? Like I struggle with all of my own nonsense and BS that comes on. The difference I feel is I try to operate on a conscious level that I take accountability for my actions, and I try to be a good person and I try to make good choices more often than not, you know, and hate just spews more hate, and that's not a world that I want to see, and it's not a world that I want to live in, and it's not definitely not what I want for my family and for my daughter. So what do we do with all of this? you know I feel like we try to have more conversations. We try to talk about the stuff. We try to understand people's differences. you know like I'm very blessed in the practice that I have, that I work with people from all walks of lives, all nationalities and different ethnicities and different religions, you know, and I want to understand people, and I want to love people. And I feel like we're getting so far away from that because of what's being fed to us. You know, I stopped watching the news. I don't even know that I really ever watched the news because to me, I recognize like how it made me feel. It made me feel anxious and uncomfortable and you know, paranoid that something was always going to happen, you know, and if I'm naturally hardwired for this anxiousness, like why feed it something that's going to contribute to it? And so I don't feed into those things, you know, and I recognize as I'm as I'm posting a video on social media how much I need to reduce my uh, uh, feed because it just feeds negativity. You know, like when I started my company, you know, I made it a purpose to post positive messages, you know, daily. And it was because at the time I really needed it. I got tired of seeing how much negativity there was in the world. And I got tired of seeing people post things about, you know, haters and you know, how it just nonsense. And I wanted people to be able to have a place where they could go to receive positive messages because I know how important that is. And what I didn't recognize or realize at the time is how it transformed the way that I felt. You know, I do try to focus on the positives. I have been able to change my mindset. You know, I've been very open in regards to at one point my life was so dark and my addiction was so bad that I tried to take my own life. To go from that to go to where I am now, to be a loving father, to be a try to be a good husband, you know, like try to be a good human being, to try to show up for other people and help them through their stuff. You know, it was work to help me get to that place. You know, but I tapped into the resources that I had, and I used the tools, you know, that I was exposed to help with that. You know, and that's what I want to see for other people. If you're unhappy, if you are full of hatred and don't like the way your life is, change it. It's up to you. You're the only person that can make a difference. You know, nobody else is going to come and do it for you. That's the reality. You know, for a long time I just hoped that things would get easier, or you know, I didn't want to have to go to school and work hard because I just wanted, you know, things handed to me and all that kind of stuff. You know, the reality is like nobody's going to hand you anything, and if they do, you don't feel value because you didn't earn it. You don't appreciate it. Change is possible. You know, I firmly believe that because of where I'm at currently in my life. You know, and I still have goals that I want to aspire and I want to like achieve. The thing is like I actively work on them, you know, and I've developed tools and you know, I've been lucky enough to like be exposed to other people that are better than I am at things, and I pick their brain about it, and I try to make these improvements, you know, and unfortunately I feel like a lot of people operate on a very unconscious level. Right? And I'm not saying that in a condescending way, like I'm better than anybody, but I feel like you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know where these behaviors and these things are coming from, right, it's easy to feel very disconnected from the world around you. And it's very easy to be like to turn it towards pain, towards, you know, hatred, and subject it to everybody else. You know, hurt people, and that's the reality. You know, if you really want to see a different world, it starts with changing yourself, and then being able to lead by example, and being able to like, you know, have civil conversations with other people. You know, when we start silencing people for because they have differences of opinions, that's a scary place to be. And I think that's what's made me feel so sad is that's just a scary world, you know. And my hope is that somebody watches this and they recognize like that there's help out there, that somebody gives a shit, somebody loves them. If people can hate for no reason, I can absolutely love for no reason. And I absolutely love you because I believe that you are valuable as a human being. And if this message reaches just one person, great. We can do better.